What's going on, everybody? This is the comment section number 33. First up, Queen, Jealousy, Jazz. Todd Mathers, 5075. What's going on, buddy? This song follows a style that Freddie used in his songwriting, starting with Nevermore, then Lily of the Valley, then Love of My Life, then You Take My Breath Away. And it's fair to say that Freddie took it to another level with each album, and this kept it interesting. He had one more of this type, which appeared 3 albums later on the works, It's a Hard Life. Jealousy is a nice song and pleasing to the ears. At the same time, there's nothing new here. If you had been following Queen at the time, you'd basically heard it before with one of the others I mentioned. I would say that this song does stand out on Jazz, and for me is the 3rd best song. But I'd also say if you placed it on any of the previous albums, I'm not sure it would rise that high because those albums were filled with so many very good songs. Very interested in your reactions once you get past Bicycle Race. Cool. Yep. Just a little bit of info right there. Very cool. Okay, a perspective. Cool. Okay, up next. Jemai Grant. This is from a bass cover that I did. This is probably years ago. This is probably 2017, 2018, maybe even 2019. Somewhere around there I was doing lots of videos like this. The artist LMI, song Shot Clock. Nice. You should do her song Naked. I immediately showed this to my wife. And she said, yeah, you should. Cool. All right, funny. All right, up next. From the comment section number 29, Eno Varma. What's going on? I would never try telling you to improve your channel, but it's so obvious the channel needs more cat. And this would be a good time for me to pull the cat out, but the cat's not here right now. The cat's sleeping in the other room. So I can actually do this without being interrupted. I get it. There's a lot of people that think that also. So there's that. All right. Comment section number 32. Take a piece of my mind. What's going on, buddy? What's the difference between producing and engineering, and have these roles changed over time? I would say absolutely and undoubtedly. Okay, what's the difference between producing and engineering? Okay, so engineering is like kind of the person that's controlling all the stuff. Turning the knobs and recording and maybe setting up the microphones. Like, depending on the size studio and things like that, there are maybe multiple engineers, assistant engineers, things like that, right? Or there may just be one engineer and one producer, or that person may be the same person, right? Just one person. That all kind of depends, and that also is a way that it has changed, right? If that makes sense. But normally an engineer is somebody who is getting the microphones, putting up the microphones, setting stuff up, making sure the recording gear is ready, actually recording the stuff, right? Getting it all, making sure it's all recorded. The actual like physical activity of like doing those things and making sure that everything is right and getting caught, right, being recorded and it all looks correct. It's not like there's not some problem, right? Things like that. Things aren't clipping, all things like that, right? Basically, that's a very basic overview of what that is. Producer, this is where maybe it gets a little bit more ethereal, potentially, because the producer basically is the person who is producing the product. Like, kind of at its most basic, they're the one that is producing the product. They're making sure that the engineer is doing what they have to do, that the artist and musicians are doing what they need to do, so that at the end of whatever the allotted time is, whatever the you know, like if there's a deadline or anything like that, there's a product and it's done. That's, in a lot of ways, in a very basic way, the bottom line of what a producer is. Now, then you can get all artsy and get like, okay, I'm working with this band and I want to, maybe some band came to me and wants me to produce them, then I need to check them out, maybe see them live, maybe go to a rehearsal, kind of hear what they're about, hear their songs, and think about how I want the recording to sound, how I want it to be presented, maybe song choice, maybe you're kind of bridging more the technical side of making records and the artistic side of making records. That's kind of what the producer is in a lot of ways. They're bridging those things, right? Because an artist or a musician or whoever may not know specifically how to make a record. They may just be a player, right? This is more so, less so nowadays, I should say. That's the easier way to say it. Less so nowadays, because nowadays everybody has a studio in this room. Right here. There's a studio right here, right? Everybody has that. They have access to that. More people than ever have access to that. It's cheaper. It sounds better than ever, right? So there's more bedroom artists type things now. So it's like people that are musicians and they're also kind of engineers, kind of producers. I would say there are less producers in that kind of way, you know, in like the old school kind of way than now, you know. That used to be a bigger thing as opposed to now it's like everybody just, so many people self-produce, right? It's just things like that. So those are, I think that makes sense, right? Those are the differences between an engineer and a producer. How have these roles changed over time? I think I hit a bit of that also. There's, because of like budget things and stuff like that, there's more producers that also are the engineer. There's way more of that, as opposed to having a dedicated engineer where they're not giving musical input. The producer is giving musical input. The engineer is just getting the stuff recorded. They're doing what the producer wants them to do. You know, okay, we're going to record this on, you know, this track or whatever. They're making sure they don't even need to be told that. They already are going to get that. And, okay, I need this a little bit hotter. I need this brighter. I need this, maybe, you know, just this actually, hang on a second. This actually brings in a couple of different things, because there's not just, like I said at the beginning, there's not just one engineer, right? There's like a recording engineer, then there are like mixing engineers, and then there are like mastering engineers. Okay, so when you're recording, you're just getting everything recorded. You're just recording to the tape, to the DAW, right? The digital audio workstation. You're just getting things recorded. So you're doing things like setting up mics, using what mics to use. That may be a choice by the producer. That may be a choice by the engineer. Again, depends. Mic placement, again, it could go either way. The producer may say, I need it more reverb, or I need more of a room sound on this, I should say. I need more of a room sound on this. And then either he's going to do it, or, you know, the producer's going to do it, or the engineer's going to do it. Kind of depends on how they work. There are some producers that have their own engineers, right? We're talking about all kinds of different levels here. And then we have mix engineers. And sometimes they're the same, and sometimes they're different. Meaning sometimes the recording engineer also mixes. Totally depends on the project, all of that, right? And the mix engineer is, after everything's been recorded, they're then mixing the sound. Producer isn't doing that. Producer can do that, depending. You know, there's all these variables. It really depends. And again, the big thing that's changed from decades ago making records to now making records is, more often now it's like an all-in-one person, or an all-in-two, you know, like 2 people or 3 people, as opposed to just a list of all these engineers that are working, and a producer or 2 producers, or like a producer and the band, or producer and the artist. Now more than ever, it's like all in-house, kind of, you know, all just one, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, and while it was a little bit generic, there was, you know, hopefully there was a little bit more in there for you. Anyways, all right, up next, Gino Vanelli, People Gotta Move. D Nicely, what's going on? You talk too much. Okay, yeah. Apparently you want to just, if you just want to hear it, if you just want to listen to a song, you can go to Spotify. Or maybe I talk too much. And if you're watching this video, you probably definitely think I talk too much. This is a specifically talking video. The comment section is a specifically talking video. So welcome to the channel. Also, see you later. Because I assume you're not coming back. You're probably not like, oh, wow, I totally forgot about this guy. I can't believe they just tagged me and now I'm back seeing this guy. Never wanted to see him again. Sorry. You left a comment. And this is the comment section. Okay, up next. The Tragically Hip and Alex Lifeson, The Last Recluse, and Little Bones. Yes, Head, what's going on? So I know I'll get, oh, I love this one. So I know I'll get hate for this, but are these guys the Canadian version of the Dave Matthews Band or something? That's pretty hilarious. That's pretty hilarious. You don't like the Dave Matthews Band? I would say that the Dave Matthews Band is not like the Tragically Hip. I actually know a fair amount of the Dave Matthews Band. I don't know all of them, right? But I did play in a Dave Matthews tribute band for a while. Right, when I was in college, I played in a Dave Matthews tribute band. Said I didn't have to have a work-study job while I was at school, because I did for a little while and it was terrible. And then I was like, I need a gig, and I found a Dave Matthews tribute band, and then I was just gigging and it was great. So, and I was not a Dave Matthews Band fan, actually. I was not at the time. I liked Before These Crowded Streets. I still kind of think that's my favorite record of theirs. Of the records of theirs that I know. I don't know like any of their recent stuff, like at all. But those early records I do know because I played like all of them. Like all those songs. I played pretty much all of them. Up to what? We did Gray Street. We even did American Baby. I don't know what order those songs came out in. I think American Baby was after Gray Street, and that's where it ended, and I stopped playing with that. But, that band kind of, it was like a college band, for me at least, and for a couple of the guys that were in the band. So anyways, I would say that Dave Matthews Band's music is way more intricate than Tragically Hip, but I guess you're just thinking like, there's a lot of people that are really, really into Dave Matthews Bands, like really into them. And in that way, it's a little culty, niche-y kind of thing. And maybe you're thinking the same thing about the Tragically Hip. It's like, what is it about these guys? I'm not into it. Like, or this is annoying or whatever. I suppose. I don't know. I don't see them as the same. But, yeah, you probably will get hate for this. And that's one of the reasons why I want to highlight this, so that the haters can... I'm directing the haters to you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I thought the comment was funny. All right. Up next, look at this. Yes, Head again. Queen, another one bites the dust. Yes, Head, what's happening? Personally, I never could take this song seriously and still can't. But Queen were laughing all the way at the bank, so what do I know? And about old fans being pissed, now you know how old fans felt about 90125. 9125? I mean, I've seen the album title, but I don't know how to say it. 90125. Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten to any of that business yet, but maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. Okay, next. I don't know what video this is to. Maybe we'll figure it out. This is Jamez 3461. What's going on? Something you need to understand is that most bands don't stay the same and sound the same over time. This is an obvious statement. Except maybe AC/DC or Motorhead. Yeah, okay, there are some bands that really just do their thing to death, and that they do like literally one thing and that's all they do, is kind of what you're saying there. But most bands do change over time, and I get that. To me, that's obvious. That's given. The musical climate was very different in 1980 versus the mid-70s. If they had made another album like A Night at the Opera or News of the World in 1980, no one would have bought it. They probably would have, by the way. They probably would have. I mean, people bought Jazz, and they even bought the game, right? This is obviously on a Queen video. I'm not telling them to do that. Obviously, it's a moot point, right? Obviously, at this point, it's a moot point, obviously. But I think if they were to try and do that, first of all, they wouldn't be able to just do that again. It would be something different, just because it would be different songs, right? That's pretty obvious. So it would have to be something different. Even if they did try and do the same thing. It's like Rush did Permanent Waves, and they, in a way, sort of tried to do the same thing on Moving Pictures. Moving Pictures is not the same as Permanent Waves. Permanent Waves is a masterpiece. Moving Pictures is a commercial hit. I prefer the masterpiece. Okay, anyways. They stayed relevant by updating their sound and image as many other bands did from the 1970s did. Of course, yeah, everybody has to do that, right? That's just the game. Unfortunately, they didn't have the same kind of success with Hot Space. Instead, they tried to recapture the success of Another One Bites the Dust by making an album that mostly follows that style, and it didn't work. I'm not really a big fan of their 80s music, with a few exceptions. It seems more bland and less inventive. They did make an artistic comeback with their final album, Innuendo, in 1991, but it was short-lived as Freddie passed away later that year. The album they released after his death doesn't have the same energy and comes off like a collection of discarded tracks. Yeah, that sucks. So I don't count that as a proper Queen album. Yeah, that sucks. If you stop going through their discography after the game, you won't be missing much, but Innuendo is worth giving a listen. Cool. All right. Thank you for that. Okay. Kevin Applegate, 2126. What's going on, buddy? What type of music do you like? What is this about? What type of... So this... I think this is on a Queen video. It must be on something off of the game, I think. I like all kinds of music, like all kinds of music. There's also a lot of music that I don't know, like straight up don't know. Like I don't know a lot of classic stuff actually, that like Queen, and like I just did Rush, like Rush. I didn't know a lot of Rush. My dad didn't listen to Rush, I didn't grow up with it, that kind of thing. I grew up with Toto, the Doobie Brothers, a little bit of Led Zeppelin, a little bit of Jimi Hendrix. What else was my dad listening to? I just remember really being into like Toto and Doobie Brothers. I was really into them. But my dad listened to other things besides that. I wasn't, this is before I was like super, an active listener on my own. I'm talking about when I was a kid. And then I got into Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, when these bands were really starting up, right? Early 90s. And MTV, whatever was on MTV. I used to watch MTV almost religiously because I knew I was into music, and that's music television. When it wasn't the 80s MTV, but it was early 90s. They were still playing. This is before The Real World, right? Before all that stuff. I was watching MTV like religiously. I would come home from school, MTV's on the whole time, right? And then also Beavis and Butthead. I freaking loved Beavis and Butthead because it's a cartoon, they're ridiculous, and also they played music, and it was heavy music. I liked all that stuff, and it wasn't all heavy, but you know what I'm saying. Then I got into Pantera. That was kind of a big deal. I've said it before and showed the CD. I was walking down the street, right, my street one day, and I found a CD flipped upside down. I still have it. Found the CD flipped upside down on the road. I pick it up. It's Vulgar Display of Power. It was scratched to hell. I come home and I put it in the CD player, and like the first 5 or 6 tracks played, and that was it. But from the first track, I was just like, what the fuck is this? This is incredible, right? So I got into some heavy stuff. I got into Sepultura. I was into Korn for a little bit when those bands were new, like Korn, Deftones, Limp Bizkit. I never was really into Limp Bizkit. I still am not, right? Even though they're having like a resurgence. I liked Slipknot's first album. The only band of those that I really kept with was Deftones. I still love Deftones, one of my favorite bands. Oh yeah, way early on, also Black Sabbath, way early on, and also during this period. This is all like still grade school, high school. Ozzy, super into Ozzy. One of the first concerts I went to was Ozfest. What else? And then I started studying bass. I got into Jocko. I got into more jazz kind of things. Miles Davis, John Coltrane. And then I went to college and studied bass. And that's where like the floodgates opened for whatever music. It was just like super sponge time, kind of. Lots of jazz, lots of soul, R&B, lots of it. Did I mention Dream Theater in high school? I was into Dream Theater also. Yeah, I was really into Dream Theater. I saw them 2 or 3 times during that period. Yeah, but I always still kind of more consider myself like in high school I was like a band geek, but metal guy band geek kind of. Even though I wasn't like shredding like that, I never, even though I listened to metal, I never specifically wanted to play in a metal band, because to me, metal was not about bass. And I was a bass player. I liked bass. The reason why I play bass is actually Rage Against the Machine. And the reason for that is because I heard, to me at least, and I already was playing music. I played saxophone was my first instrument. I played saxophone for like, I think 10 years. You'd never know it, by the way, if you gave me a saxophone right now, but yeah. So I already was into music, but the reason why I think I got into bass was, first of all, my dad was a guitar player and he had guitars, but he told me to play the bass because you'll always have a gig, which has been accurate. It's been accurate for me. So, right. So there's that. But also Rage Against the Machine, because they had so many songs that started with the bass. I just heard it, as its own instrument, as just that. Oh, what's that? That's cool. I like that. That's cool. So I just gravitated toward the bass, and that's all I play. I just, I don't try and pretend that I play drums also, or keyboard also, or guitar also. I don't pretend that. I literally play the bass. I can play the shit out of it, and that's it, right? I'm okay with that. I'm all right. There are some people, some crazy, insane people that are intensely good at playing multiple instruments, and then there are most people who say that they play other instruments, and they kind of hack or can fake or are just okay, and I'm not okay with just being okay. I mean, I'm an okay singer. I'm a decent singer, right? But I'm not like a trained singer. I mean, I just, having gone to school for music and spent so much time doing it, I just know what it literally takes to do it and to get to a level that I would want to be at, like that kind of thing in terms of playability on the instrument. Now, do you have to be that good to play gigs that I do or anything like that? No, not at all. Not at all. You could be terrible. You could be all of those things that I'm not trying to be and do the same gigs that I do. You're not going to do it like how I can do it, and that's all I care about. So, yeah, a lot of soul, R&B, a lot of, all of it. Stevie Wonder, easily one of my favorite artists of all time. Stevie Wonder. Was really into Al Green, Isaac Hayes for a while. Earth, Wind, Fire, obviously. Parliament, Funkadelic, George Clinton, right? Yeah, a lot more that I don't have in front of me. And then jazz, obviously, super into Wayne Shorter, super into nearly anything that Blue Note put out, into Pat Metheny. Yeah. Since moving down here to Florida, I have discovered a little bit of country, like a little bit, because that's one of the only genres that you haven't heard me touch on yet. But I at least found some country that I like, where I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Hank Jr.'s cool. He's got some cool songs. Dig it. Like the vibe, like the thing that he's putting off, his kind of persona, his energy and all that. So yeah, I like all kinds of music. All kinds of music. Okay. All right. Last one. What's going on? This is again, we're bookending Todd Mathers, 5075. What's going on? This is Queen Rocket Prime Jive. I've watched your reactions closely, reading through the comments. There's lots of encouragement to keep going. Yeah, there is. There sure is. There sure is. People are going to be upset, huh? I may pick it back up at some point. You never know. There's lots of encouragement to keep going as a lifelong Queen fan from the very beginning, and watching what you like and what you don't. You should stop. Yeah, I agree. Because I already did the Rush discography, and there were points where that was really a slog, for sure. Especially towards the end there, it was like, I mean, there was some moments of kind of like, okay, it's getting better, but it was still just not the same. I'm glad I did it. It was still really cool. I'm glad I know their albums now. But at this point, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to sit through Hot Space. I don't want to do that. You guys are not going to like me for it, because I'm not going to lie to you on how I think or feel. Like, I'm not going to. If I don't like it and I think it's hot garbage, I'm going to say it's hot garbage, and then I'm going to get a bunch of hate comments, and you're going to end up on the comment section videos, which would be entertaining potentially. And I wish I started doing the comment section videos from the very beginning of doing the Rush discography, but I didn't think to do that yet. So Anyways, yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that I'm gonna do if it hasn't started already, I am gonna do a live Queen, live Queen or whatever. And I'm picking one of them, and I'm sure people are gonna be like, "Oh, this one's better," or "You should have done this one or this one," and maybe I will at some point. But I think just for now, I'm good. I feel like I know Queen way better, way better than before. Literally, all I had growing up, right when I grew up, my dad had those super famous Queen compilations, right? Those greatest hits, like 1 and 2 or whatever. So that's all I knew. It was a ton of songs, right? A ton of their hit songs, and others, including like "Save Me" and also "Seven Seas of Rye" and things like that that I forgot were even on there. First time I heard Seven Seas of Rye doing these videos, I was like, wait a minute, I kind of recognize this. It's like in the back of my head somewhere. It's because and then I looked up on those albums, those greatest hits. Sure enough, Seven Seas of Rye was on there. So I'm glad that I went through what I did with Queen, because I feel like I know them way more. And this is not to say that I won't at some point pick it back up, or at least maybe do some of their later albums, including Innuendo, which pretty much everyone is like, you need to do. But I'm not going to listen to people, at this point. I listened to them through Rush, and they wanted me to do everything, and I ended up doing every single goddamn Rush release ever. And while that was great and amazing, that was a heavy catalog to take on. Queen's catalog is much smaller. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I haven't made that decision of what I'm going to do after this, but all I know is I don't want to sit through Hot Space. I don't care how many people say like it's not that bad. Or like it's okay, or it gets so much shit, but it's really not. I'm just kind of like consensus is no, hell no. And if that's other people's opinions, can you imagine my opinion? Yeah, so I'm afraid of that. And that's not to say maybe there aren't things that I wouldn't like on it. That's not to say any of that. Or shit, maybe I'm going to think it's amazing. Probably not. But just based on what people are saying and how they're saying it sounds, I'm just kind of like, I don't want to sit through that. I don't want to. I don't need that in my life right now. That's not what I want. So anyways, awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you all. I'll catch you in the next video.